Welcome to Love, Life, Cancer. I'm Joe.
And I'm Shannon.
This is our story of falling in love, starting our life together,
And navigating cancer.
It's going to be a wild ride.
So pop on your seatbelt and welcome to our sofa.
Okay, welcome back to the next episode of Love, Life, Cancer. Hope you guys are doing well today. How are you?
Good, you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. We've had a hectic few weeks, haven't we? And I had some surgery this week, so I've been out of action for a couple of days, and we've had loads of appointments and various other bits going on that we've needed to sort of do. And we've also had some changes to our, work circumstances and things like that, which we're going to talk a bit about today. So we're going to do things a little bit differently. So obviously where we left off in the last episode was we were about to start chemo, or Shannon was about to start chemo. And we've had some events transpire over the last couple of weeks that have really played on both of our minds quite a lot, haven't we?
Do you know what? I don't even think it's like last couple of weeks. I think it has been highlighted the last couple of weeks, but it's been the whole journey.
Yeah.
And it's just something that we really want to talk about because I feel like it needs to be addressed.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is sort of current stuff, but like Shannon's just said, this is going to be relevant throughout the entire journey. This is stuff that we've experienced from day one, really, that we want to sort of address and really, kind of address the elephant in the room a little bit and talk about some of the stigmas that come with a cancer diagnosis and various other things like that. So yeah, let's jump straight into it then. Yes. So the first thing we wanted to talk about is obviously when you got your diagnosis, some interesting stuff happened, didn't it?
Yeah.
Easy cancer. So
I didn't want to say it. Yeah. So I was told very early on when I got diagnosed, I was telling friends and family and people that we knew, people at work and things like that. And I did get one comment, actually not more than one comment, of going, "Oh, Hodgkin's lymphoma, that's the easy one, right?" Okay. And then another one was like, "Oh, so-and-so's cousin's brother's sister had that and she was absolutely fine. The survival rate's really high. It's easy. You'll be fine."
Yeah. And I mean, it really affected both of us because...
It pissed me off.
Yeah. We're talking about, diagnosis. We're talking about those first week or two.
It's raw.
It's raw. It's everything.
Terrifying. And someone tells you that it's easy. And you know full well that the journey you've got coming up, it's not going to be easy.
Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what type of cancer you have or what illness you have. You could have an array of illnesses that are going to have a massive impact on your life in many ways. We're talking financial, we're talking relationships, we're talking your family, we're talking, your day-to-day life, your quality of life, all of these things that, a lot of people seem to overlook. And this is why we wanted to sort of have this episode and sort of do a little bit of a
bit of a curveball, really.
Yeah, a little bit of a curveball for you guys.
And a cliffhanger.
Yeah, a little bit of a cliffhanger. But, we're talking about stigmas here. Mm-hmm. We're talking about, things that happen, things that people say. And do you know what? I don't think anyone talking to us at that time had bad intentions.
No. But it's just, think about what you're saying to somebody. Somebody's just told you they have Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is cancer. The first thing out of your mouth shouldn't be that was easy. It should be, "What do you need? I'm sorry. What do you like?" Just general stuff that people should say. I don't understand sometimes what goes through the human brain, but I know people say things because it's an awkward situation. They don't know what to say, and they think saying that will make you feel better. But it's not even that. I remember that time when I had to go into a pharmacy to get COVID tests. Mm-hmm. This is after the cancer journey. I'm still on it, but after the chemo and all that, I wasn't feeling too well. I went into a pharmacy because I have had cancer treatment. I can go and get the COVID test for free. So I went in there and she was really looking up and down my paperwork as if to say that I was lying, that I'd had cancer. She was really like this and she said, "Oh, I don't know. And then she went to the pharmacist and she come back and she went, "Oh, Hodgkin's lymphoma, that's the easier one, isn't it?" When I tell you, I just walked out of there and left the COVID test there, that I was not even going to entertain that, because as she said that, the flashbacks that I had over the past year did not describe easy to me. It was traumatic. So even for some more of a healthcare professional working in a professional environment to say that, anyone can say it.
Yeah. And I think this really sort of hits the nail on the head that, you are out in public, you're going to do shopping, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And I mean, to be completely honest with you, we touched on it in the previous episode, that week before the wedding, nobody apart from
very close family,
pretty much your mum and dad, my immediate family, my mum and dad, even though they didn't actually come and see you. And, oh, did they? Oh, sorry.
Your mum came to me that way, didn't she?
Oh, yes, she did, because I had to go to work.
You had to go to work, and that's the day when I picked up the wedding ring.
Yes, it was.
And I cried. No, that's the time mum came in, and I asked her to come in, because other than that, I didn't want anyone to see me that way. So that wasn't like no one come to see me. It was more that I didn't want anyone to come and see me because I didn't feel like I wanted to be seen in the state that I was. And people knew that I was in hospital.
Yeah.
They didn't know really why. They just thought, oh, it's just, she's just getting ready for chemo. She's got this, she's got that. No one knew the extent of why I was in hospital and what state I was actually in.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And, those couple of days, like we said, they were very touch and go. We had that very blunt conversation with our Macmillan nurse of essentially, what's the point of getting married? What's the point of freezing your eggs if you're not going to be here to use them? And
do you know what? Just quickly, I even to this day, I think recently in the past month, I've been asked 2 or 3 times if I'm going to use my frozen eggs. And that's by family as well. People don't know. That we had to make that decision quite quickly. As far as everyone knew, I had all the stuff ready to go. But in the circumstances that we had, and we had that decision we had to make, that all went out the window. And even now, I'll just go, oh, no, we didn't get a chance to do that. And people are still like, sorry, what? I thought you did it. And then I explain now what happened. And the shock on their face, I think they're a bit embarrassed to say, they've asked the question. But also, they're in shock that the circumstances surrounding that were so severe and so touch and go.
It's the equivalent of asking someone how far along they are when you're actually pregnant. It's the IVF cancer equivalent of that, isn't it?
Yeah.
The mortified.
When are you going to use your eggs? I'm like, I ain't got any.
You ain't got any, hun. And, and this is the thing, people at that time, they knew you were going through it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, they knew you were in hospital and things like that. But then the first that people, and when I say people, I mean outside of those immediate family members, seen you was on our wedding day. And
I looked fit.
Yeah, you did.
I was saying to myself.
Yeah.
I had Alicia did my makeup too. Oh my God, I've never felt more beautiful in my life. She got rid of all the green skin colour that I had at the time. And then Lucas from Secondtons did my hair. And he absolutely smashed that, even though it was starting to thin. He made it look really thick and lovely. And I was in a wedding dress, and everyone was sort of looking a bit like, she looks amazing. And I think I overheard somebody say, like, around me, I thought she had cancer. I was riddled with cancer. I was on bottles of medication that are very extreme, and lots of Red Bull, and no one saw that. They saw, oh, she's doing okay. She looks really well.
Yeah, and that's the thing, your dad pretty much had to, hold your arm to stop you from collapsing when you were walking down the aisle. Yeah. But again, for people looking in from the outside, they just see a father walking his daughter down the aisle. And we had it during our ceremony very quickly. We had to sort of sit you down. But people didn't realise that was what we were doing. They were like, they're sitting down to do their Swedish thing. No, they had to sit me down pretty quick. Yeah.
And then the other thing is as well, when I came, you wouldn't have seen this, because when you come out where we've got ready, there's a huge staircase. You know that big one?
Yeah.
It was stunning. It was beautiful. Photographer was there at the bottom taking pictures. My bridesmaids were looking up at me, and I was holding on to my dad, and I just went, please don't let me fall. And I was so scared that I was going to fall because I was so weak. But all everyone saw was my dad tell me a silly little joke in my ear, which made me laugh, which is a thing he does regularly anyway. But it made me laugh. So I looked good. I looked fine. I looked confident. But it's that what you don't see. It's the inside. It's the feelings. It's the illness. It's the, yeah.
At the end of the day, it's, for lack of a better word, you feel quite embarrassed by showing that weakness and showing that you're hurting. And
I'm 30 years old. I'm 30 years old, and I look at my peers and they're out climbing mountains, or they're out running marathons, or, and they're doing all these amazing things, even going on massive nights out or hem weekends. I mean, I recently went to a hem weekend that was supposed to be 3 days long, and I made it one night, and I had to go home because I just couldn't do it. And I tried so hard, and I pushed myself so hard to do it. And do you know what? I had the best time. But I knew it was time for me to go home. And I get so embarrassed that I can't do what my peers are doing at 30 years old. And also I resent that, and I get angry about it quite a lot. You do get quite a lot of angry tears from me that I'm not like everybody else. And you know what? I've got some amazing friends that do come down to my level and go, if you want a nap while we're together, you do that. I'll put some on the TV. So, I have got that, but also it's just looking out on social media and seeing people do these amazing things, and it's great, but I can't do that, and it makes me angry.
Yeah, I mean, just talking on that note of nights out and stuff, there's been nights that we've had to leave early, or you've had to leave early, and at the beginning, I really struggled with that because, I would be sitting there going, well, my friends are, that we're out with, couples, whatever, they're off, they're wanting to go and do this and that.
They want to go clubbing now.
Yeah, walk these places and things like that. And, it was a very big realization for me as well that that's part of my life that I've lost. Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong, we're not big ones for a night out, we're not big ones for clubbing, but you know what, every now and again, it's nice to go and do a boogie.
But it's even like when you go on the Wellingborough Road where we live, and it's a row of pubs, and you go down to the end of the row, and that's great, that's fine, you little hop between them. But then the next one is a good 10-minute walk away. Now, to anyone in our age, wicked, yeah, fine, 10 minutes in the car.
We actually had this joke the other day, didn't we? Because when we were in town a few days ago for a couple of appointments, I said to you, we need to go to the Guildhall, where's that? And you went, it's down by the Old Bank. And I went, well, how far away is that? And you were like, 10 minutes. I used to run there on a night out from here. And I was like, no, you didn't. She was like, yes, I did.
In heels, I could run there to get them before closing.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I can't do that now. But the thing is, I will do it. I will do it, and I'll push myself to do it. And then I will get the next day, I will get hit hard by pain, I'll get hit hard by tiredness, I just get hit really hard, and
that's the thing as well, just going back to what we were saying a minute ago about nights out and stuff, and like I said, at first it was really hard for me to handle, because there had been a few occasions you'd gone out with your friends, Erin, and I pick you up and you're sitting there drinking and giggling away, and there was part of me that sort of sit there and go, well, you can do it with Erin, why can't you do it with me? And it wasn't because you didn't want to do it with me, it's because when you're out with Erin, you put that brave face on. You grit
Erin sees through it, she sees me. She does. But I still do it. I will put that face on, I'll get through it, and I'll have the best night. But the thing is with Joe, I could look at him and smile, and he sees behind us well. He sees right into my brain and goes, it's time to go home.
I can just tell from your body language. Body language, the way you're acting, the way you're talking, even if you're not wincing or you don't look like you're in
my
pain,
eyebrow goes a little bit too much.
I can just tell you're struggling, and it took some time for both of us, I think, to sort of realise that we're not able to do these things that other people do, and it's hard to have that conversation, because you've got a group of friends who you've organised a night out with, and halfway through the evening you're sort of going, right, we're going to make a move, and they're like, well, why are you going, what's going on, is she all right, are you all right, what's happening? And it's that awkwardness of, especially for me as well, being that sort of piggy in the middle a little bit, in the sense that I want to make sure Shannon's okay, I want to make sure that she's looked after, that she has what she needs. But obviously you feel an obligation to your friends, because they've come out, they've made the effort to see you, whatever it may be. And it's a real hard thing to do. And,
But at the same time, I'm always the one to tell you to stay and not to go home.
100%.
But he never does.
No.
Because as he always says,
I did once, and then literally woke up the next day feeling so incredibly guilty. And to be fair,
and you're very high.
I actually left my friends because they were talking about going to another place, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to go to the toilet, and I just left.
He did that.
And because it was because I didn't want to have that awkward conversation of going, right, I'm going to have to make a move. I want to go and check on Shannon. I want to go make sure she's okay.
That's sweet.
You know, and this is the thing, and people don't see that. And, you know, going back to sort of when you first started going through treatment and things like that, you know, some of the symptoms that you were dealing with, you know, you were throwing up, you weren't able to eat, and all these kind of things. But, you know, we'd nip down to Tesco's, because it's like, right, you've been in the house for 3 days, you need to get out and get some fresh air. And we go to Tesco, and, you know, a lot of people just think, oh, we're just going to nip to Tesco, I'll just chuck my shoes on, let's go. Well, no, for you, that's getting you up, getting you showered, getting your hair washed, getting your hair dried, getting your hair straightened.
I didn't have any hair.
That time before your hair came off, you know what I mean. But, you know, getting you up, getting you showered, getting you dressed, doing your hair, and, you know, and getting you ready. And that's before you've even taken a step out.
And that's exhausting.
Yeah.
And you know what? That still applies now.
Yeah, it does. And, you know, it's not just exhausting for you, it's exhausting for me, because
you're getting yourself ready and another human being ready.
Yeah.
An adult, not child, an adult.
Yeah. And we are literally talking from top to toe. We're talking socks and pants, bra. You know, I'm an absolute whiz of whipping the bra off with one hand. You are quite impressed with that. But my hair dressing skills are getting there.
Nice, get better.
But, you know, again, this is the thing, you know, and we do all that. We get in the car, we get to Tesco's, we're wandering around Tesco's. Shannon's having to push the trolley because she can't stand up by herself. And someone sees you and they come over, oh, how's things, and this and that.
Looking really, really well.
You're looking well.
But they don't realise the amount of effort that it takes to look well. You know, like you said, the effort that it takes to get me dressed, the effort that it takes to do my hair, even brush it and straighten it, because I can't do that. I've got one hand. Those of you, I don't think we've gone through this yet properly, but I have my hand damaged, shall we say, for a surgery in January. So I can't use this hand. So Joe has to do my hair. You know, I can't put it up in a ponytail. I can't do those things. You know, sometimes I can't do my socks, I can't do my pants, and I can't do my leggings, and I can't lift my arms high enough. My back hurts, my t-shirt. So he does all of that. And then, you know, I'm looking well, I'm going out, and people are going, but she's all right now because she looks really well. Like, she's looking well, she's doing well, she's walking, you know, she's doing but actually what they don't know is my back's absolutely in agony because the compression and the pain that I'm getting in it. But I'm pushing through it because this is the first time I'm out of the house in 3 days, and I want to make the most of it. And it's that behind closed doors. People don't see what happens behind closed doors. And that's a saying that can go far and wide for everything, you know. But for our doors, people have no idea what's behind them. They don't see the pressure on Joe, you know, like I said, to learn hairdressing skills. I mean, he has to do mine and Harriet's hair now because I can't do Harriet's hair.
Yeah.
So, you know, he's learned how to do so many things. And I'll sit there and I'll go, oh, I really want to do this. And he'll go, we'll do it. And he'll sort my hair out for me. And it's a lot to look well.
Mm-hmm.
But to look well isn't feeling well. It isn't well on the inside.
And, you know, and this is a thing, again, you know, I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet here or anything, but,
I mean, it is.
You know, you think about when you started treatment, you know, you're in hospital multiple times a week because, you know, like you said, you go into chemo, that's 5-6 hours, you have bloods a day or two before, you have scans regularly, all of this kind of stuff. And, you know, you've got all of this going on. And whilst I'm doing this, I'm trying to work. And, you know, at the end of the day, we're getting home of an evening after chemo and Shannon could be in bed for 3 or 4 days. You know, so it's having to make sure that she's got food, having to make sure she's got, you know, drinks and things that she needs, sorting out her medication. You know, we actually I did your medication a couple of days ago, didn't I? We worked out you take 29 different tablets every single day.
Now, I just want to put that, you saying like that, when I was going through chemo, we're still going through that now.
Yeah.
There's something people don't see. I think people see that you've finished chemo, you're looking well, you've got your hair back, you're doing these things, social media, you're out here, you're doing this and that. What they don't see is those 29 medications keeping me somewhat functioning. They don't see that I can't do those medications. I can't put my own together because I forget what I've got. I don't have the capacity with one hand to pop all those tablets out. So weekly, Joe does that for me.
Yeah. Then, you know, on top of that, that's just keeping you alive, essentially.
Yeah.
you've then got the dog, feeding him, walking him, making sure he's okay, letting him out when he needs to be, keeping the house tidy, doing all the dishes, doing all the washing.
It got too much.
Yeah, it did. And this is still ongoing now, because like Shannon says, she's not in, a capacity to be able to do these
I don't
things.
have cancer, but I'm still not well.
Yeah. And, at the end of the day, that's all behind closed doors before we even step foot out onto the street. I'm exhausted, Shannon's exhausted. And, there's all this stuff that people don't realise and don't see because, they see us out on the street.
Yeah, or going back to work as well. Yeah. Like, that was a big thing. Straight after my chemo finished and I got to the point where I was allowed to go back to work, I went back to work and I went back full time. The phase return wasn't really a phase return where I worked. It was 2 weeks, then you're back in full time. So I was back in full time doing a management role in school. It was a lot. You were in a job that you hated in January time, and we're all working so hard, right? And we're working to the bone. I would come in from work and I'd sleep for all the evening, get up. Joe would put some dinner down, I'd eat a little bit of it, and back to sleep again. And that was our life, wasn't it? Yeah. That was it. We
even got to the point where, on the weekends, we'd have the kids on the weekends and I would go and pick them up in the morning. You'd stay in bed.
Yeah.
I'd get home. You'd be in bed till the early hours of the afternoon. The kids would obviously come in and go, "Where's Shannon? This and that." "Oh, sorry, she's having a sleep, guys."
And that felt awful for me. I didn't want to miss out on that time, but I physically couldn't be present.
And obviously at that time, I remember, I'm not sure if I've even shared this with you, but, I remember the kids, especially Harriet, saying to me, "Well, why is she asleep? I thought she was better." You've got a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old.
She's 4.
Yeah. Why is she asleep? I thought she was better. I thought the doctors gave her the medicine to make her better. And that's a 4-year-old that's making those kind of comments.
Yeah. It's because we're working so hard to provide for us and more importantly for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we did that. I did that all the way up until April, where there was some discussions at my workplace that weren't great, and I felt like I was being pushed out and they were getting ducks in a row. That's how I felt. So it was either leave or wait to be sacked. I mean, it wasn't a great relationship because if I've gone through this or not, but I started that job 2 weeks in, I got diagnosed with cancer, and then that was it, I was off. So I don't know if there was any resentment there or coming back, and then there were adaptations that had to be made for me. I don't know.
What I will say was to give them their dues.
My team were amazing.
Yeah, your team were amazing, but to give them their dues, like you just said, you got this job and 2 weeks later you got your diagnosis.
Yeah.
And they could have quite easily at that point when, well, unfortunately we need someone in the position, that's that. They held the job for you.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
They were very good. And like I said, give them their dues in that capacity. And, they sort of said, look, you're not entitled to any sick pay, but, you will, we'll keep the job open. And when you're ready to come back, it is there for you. So, give them their dues. But then, like you said, once treatment finished, and again, this is again, this stigma and this conception of, well, you finished chemo now, you're better. No, that's not the case.
Still got appointments constantly. Yeah. I've had the after effects of chemo. I've had the after effects of everything. I'm still not okay, but I'm doing my fucking hardest to do the best job that I can for my team and those children. And it was the outer management that I would say had more of an issue. But like I said, the team that I worked with were absolutely fantastic and I absolutely loved them so much. And it hurt to leave. I don't think I've ever cried leaving a job.
You were devastated.
I was devastated because it was my hand was turned, quite literally. I was crying and I hated it that I had to leave. And do you know what? From then, I haven't been able to work. I did a couple of weeks on agency just to try and figure out what I wanted to do next. And that broke me even more. And I realised, I said, it's not the workplace that I was in. It was just the fact that I can't do it right now. I can't do it. I've burnt myself out. I've gone straight from chemo and I've gone straight back into full-time work and I've burnt out. And that was it. I don't think I've been at work since. No.
And I mean, you say you've not been at work since, like you said, you did a few weeks on agency.
I think,
but it's not for the lack of trying. I actually got to the point where I would say to you of an evening, will you get off your bloody phone and stop looking at jobs? You were, every single time I looked at you, you were on your phone looking for jobs, applying for jobs. I mean, you must have applied for hundreds of jobs.
So many.
Yeah.
There was so many that I wanted to do and felt like I could do it. And, you know, I had an interview or two and they didn't go very well. And I even interviewed at an old workplace where I used to work at and didn't get that. And I felt like, personally, I felt an attack on myself that I wasn't good enough to go back to where I used to work. Like, I'm that disabled, I'm that unwanted, I'm that, you know, undesirable to be an employee because of what I've got going on, that even my old workplace didn't want me. And you know what? That devastated me. And I, to this day, I still look at jobs on my phone when he's not around. But I do it because I feel like I can't wait to go back. You know, it's not just a job, it's a career, it's a choice, it's what I've done all my life. And it's what I want to continue to do. And that has been essentially taken away from me. And I think if I had taken the time that I've got now, that I've had off, if I had taken that time at the beginning, I don't know if that would have made a difference that I'd be in work now. I mean, you can't think like that, but you do though. It's human to think like that, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And you know, I remember when you didn't get that job, you were broken. You were, you know, we have an expression.
That was the one thing that I thought, you know what, I'll smash this. Yeah. I'm sure I will.
We have an expression for anyone that may have seen it. Netflix program called Big Maths. Very, very good program, cartoon program. It's all about teenagers going through puberty, and they have hormone monsters, and they have various other animals and monsters,
like mosquitoes.
Yeah. And there's one in there called Depression Kitty, and it's a massive, fluffy, purple
huge
kitty.
Huge.
And she basically will lie on top of you and smother you and make you all warm and fuzzy and take you away from the world. And I remember after that interview, you were in bed for a few days, and you know, I remember telling to you, and you went, "Depression Kitty's got me."
I did say that. That's the only way that I can explain it.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can explain how I feel, was Depression Kitty's got me. She's laying on top of me. I can't get up. I can't eat. I can't shower. I can't do anything. Depression Kitty has got me hard, and I don't know what to do because it was beyond devastation. That was my last chance to go back into work and doing something that I know confidently that I could do, and I didn't get it. And
then, you know, this again goes back to the overarching topic of today. It's that stigma. It's, well, you're not at work. Why are you not at work?
Yeah.
You know, we've had some of our close, like very close friends, family, question us. Why is Shannon not at work? Why have you not got yourself a job? You know, how are you surviving? I couldn't not work. I couldn't imagine not working.
Don't know what you're going to think on not working, how much money you're going to get. Like, we're fully aware.
Yeah. You know, and again, people don't know what's going on behind closed doors. They don't know that you've applied for every single job under the sun. They don't know you've been for interviews to try and get jobs, and, you know, and been unsuccessful. And, you know, for then people who you would like to assume that know your story, that know
who had your back.
Yeah. That had you would assume that people that knew our story and knew what we've been through, and you would feel that they are the people that would have your back, are the ones then questioning you. And, you know, it's devastating.
It's heartbreaking.
It's devastating.
It is absolutely heartbreaking.
So we went on holiday a few months ago, didn't we, with my family. And I had been harassing you, shall we say, for quite some time about getting an electric wheelchair. And Shannon was very against it. And as you know, you've said previously, you were a 28, 29-year-old woman, girl, whatever you want to call it. You know,
who wants to be in a wheelchair? Who
wants to be in a wheelchair? And then this again just further sort of cements what we're saying about Shannon trying to, you know, portray this image of herself when she's out in the world, and not wanting to use crutches, not wanting to use a wheelchair, not wanting to use an electric wheelchair, because she then feels like people are looking down on her. You know, and she wants to portray that strong, you know, person that's doing well, that's well made up and everything else, which is what people see when she's out and about. But, you know, it was absolutely killing you. And like you've said, you know, we'd go down to Tesco's for half an hour just to grab something for dinner. You'd be in bed for 3 or 4 hours afterwards having a nap.
Yeah.
And, you know, and on that note, again, this is what people don't see. You know, for me, that's lonely. You know, you're in a house with your partner, with your wife, and she's gone to sleep 3 or 4 hours every day. And, you know, I sit here, and don't get me wrong, you know, there's times I sit there and think, oh, great, I can catch up on a program, or I can, you know, watch a bit of YouTube or do some gaming or whatever. But, you know, there's only so much of that in a week you want to do. And, you know, that's had a massive impact on my mental health and, you know, my happiness. You know, and again, this is what people don't seem to realize. And, you know, one thing that I was pushing for was a chair. And you were very much against it. And, you know, I sort of said at the end of the day, if being in a wheelchair enables us to actually go out as a family on a weekend to go shopping or to go and do an event, surely that's worth doing. And you were very against it, weren't you? Very against it.
How can I hold the children's hands? How can I hold your hand? How can I look at things the way that I used to look at things in shops? You can't. You can't. And I remember going back, like you said, there's one time that I was like, do you know what? Let's have a look at this. And I looked at it for the first time, and I was looking at wheelchairs. And I remember I put something somewhere in a chat, in a group chat, and someone was like, "Oh, what are we doing that for?"
So this is a family group chat. So, you know, we're talking immediate family here.
What are you doing that for? You're too young. What are you doing that for? And that was it. I was like, no.
You wouldn't see me dead in one of those.
No.
You know, and
that was it. Then I was like, no, not doing it.
Yeah. And, you know, again, it's just around that stigma of, you know, people just assuming you're lazy, assuming, you know, you're wanting to take the easy route, you know, not understanding that actually our day-to-day life would be massively improved by having an electric wheelchair, you know, because, you know, it means that when we go shopping, I don't have to constantly be thinking about, are you in pain? Are you struggling? Do I need to hold your hand? Do I need to hold your arm? Do I need to make sure you're this? You know,
do we need to go home?
Do we need to go home? And, you know, being in a shop and going, well, I want to go and have a look at something over there, but, you know, she's looking at this, so I can't leave her, and all this kind of stuff. And this is, again, what people don't seem to realize. You obviously, we actually had, we took the kids to Chessington, and you hired a chair, didn't you?
Yes.
This was not long before the holiday, and, you know, you got on really well with it, and it actually...
The only reason I got on really well with it is because Harriet was stood in it the whole entire time.
Yeah.
So instead of people looking at me going, they're looking at me going, because that was really cute.
Yeah.
And that, I think that was the transition point for me.
Yeah.
Is that I used a wheelchair for the first time, electric wheelchair for the first time, and people were accommodating, people were lovely, and, you know, I could get up out of it and go on rides. I could get up and get out of it and just go to the toilet and be able to do things that I would normally do because I was using that chair. But because Harriet was on it the whole time with me, it gave me a comfort blanket, and it gave me, you know...
bit of a shield around.
Yeah, yeah, she has that effect, doesn't she?
She does.
Yeah, it made me... Yeah.
Yeah.
Very emotional.
So you actually ended up taking a chair on holiday with us, didn't you?
Yeah.
We went to Disney, and, you know, it completely transformed the holiday for us, you know.
What it could have been. There was no way I would have been able to go to Disney and walk. Anyone who's been to Disney in Florida or even Paris, anywhere, but it's a huge place. It's like it's the size of Manchester. It is the size of Manchester, and you're walking around that all day long, on and off of rides, meeting characters, you know, doing all these things, and
just standing in queues.
And I can't stand still, so if I'm stood, my back then feels like it's just crushing. So if you ever see me, I'll be swaying or I'll be walking around because I can't bear to stand still because it hurts so much. So people think that I'm just swaying because it's just a thing, but it's not. It's to keep my back in some sort of movement so it doesn't start crushing. And I cannot stand in queues. I can't stand still. And, you know, the queues at Disney can be like an hour long, 2 hours long. They can be huge. So having access, the wheelchair, having that accessibility to be able to go, oh, this was only 10 minutes. I can stand in that queue. That's absolutely fine. But then also using that chair to go in the queue, to get to the front, to get off the chair, then go on it like everyone else. Even that was just a helpful thing. I mean, the staff there don't let you do that. So the second that the staff see that you've got a wheelchair, they will put you in a different lane. Even if you want to go in the other lane to queue with everybody else, no. You, your family, who have you got with you, come in this lane. And you feel like a bit of an imposter because you're like, no, I'm fine. Like, I don't need this. I can go in that queue and just sit in my chair. But then they're like, no, come here. It's their hospitality, isn't it? And you go straight to the front and they get you on. And I remember like parking the wheelchair up and walking over to where you stand. And I felt like an imposter because
the daggers from
the daggers that you'd get from all the people in the queues. And it's just like, I didn't ask for this. I would have waited with you guys, sat in my chair. And sometimes I did, you know, when the staff didn't catch you. It's when the staff catch you and they put you straight in that lane.
We never actively went out looking for an accessible lane.
No.
It was, we'd get in the queue or we'd be, you know, near the queue.
When you get there, there's two separate queues. There's a lightning lane and a normal lane. And normally they either put you in a lightning lane or they take you round different exit, different entrance to get somewhere. So, yeah, we never actually sort out those places.
Yeah.
The staff were just amazing. And I've heard from other people that have been there that as soon as you get there, the staff look after you so well. And it's true. It is so true.
Yeah. But, you know, that was a massive game changer for you. And, you know, we had an incident on the way home, didn't we, where we got the chair off at the airport. It was broken.
Yeah.
So, you know, through, you know, whatever fault of the aircraft or whatever it may be, the footplate had broken off, you know, however it had been stored or trucked about or whatever it may be. And, you know, that devastated you because...
It was the wheel and they took the footplate off.
Yeah.
They used the bolt, didn't they?
Yes, yeah. And, you know, and that devastated you because...
That's my independence. That was my way of getting home.
You know, at this point we'd been, you know, 3-4 hours in the airport in Orlando. We'd been 9.5, 10 hours on the flight. We then had to wait to get off the plane. You know, we're like 15, 16 hours into a 24-hour journey. And,
with 2 kids. Do you know what I mean? There were 2 kids as well.
Yeah.
That's what annoyed me.
You know, and we're talking about what you need in order to actually get home. You know, you're already exhausted, you're tired, you're in pain. You know, you've got all this stuff going on, and then that happens. And then you know, the people we're with were sort of like, well, you know, it's not a big deal, we can walk.
Huge deal.
You know, it's a huge deal. And even the staff were so nonchalant about it. And it's like, at the end of the day, you've taken away a mobility aid from someone who needs it. You know, we still had a train ride. We had to get across London. You know, we had so much of that journey still left to do. And that was taken from you.
I just wanted to go home.
You know.
And, you know, like you were saying about the nonchalant, they were like, you could sit on this and we can take you, but let's just wait for this and wait for... Oh, I don't know. And I just went, you know what? I'm just going to walk it. And they were like, but it's a long walk. And I was like, it's not as long as standing here waiting for you all to make your mind up of what's happening. Yeah. Right? I want to get through customs and I want to be able to get somewhere comfortable to then be able to deal with this mess.
Yeah.
So I walked it. And because I walked it, they were like, oh, but I thought she needed this. I did need that. But you know the pain I put myself through to walk it? You were holding me up by the end of it.
Yeah.
But again, no one sees that, do they?
Yeah. And this is the thing, and no one sees that side of it. And, you know, even though it wasn't so much behind closed doors, it kind of was, because you were putting on that face to sort of be brave.
You know, and the kids were getting a bit, you know, they were tired. They just got off a 9-hour, 10-hour flight and they wanted to get home as well. So they were getting a little bit just like unsettled. and you've got aunties and uncles trying to soothe them and trying to go, come on, let's go for a look at the airplanes. They're done with airplanes.
Yeah.
Like, they don't want to go. So that's why I put that face on and went, come on, let's just do it.
And, and this is the thing, a lot of people, we've had instances since, we went to the O2 not long ago for a concert, and, we'd booked accessible seats, we'd booked wheelchair seats, and, we get there and give them their dues, the parking was good, it was right next to the venue, disabled parking, whatever. We gets in and, the accessible entrance were, again, separate line straight through and all of that. So that was great. And we were on the 4th tier, which is the top tier at the O2.
Those leaders. And
we get out, and the escalator, or the lift, sorry, that we got out of was a gate 401. Now, our gate was 423. So we're like, right, so we're quite some distance from the gate, but, that is what it is.
Shit.
So we go round and we literally do a full lap of the O2 arena to get to the gate that we're at. And as we're coming up to the doors, I open the doors for Shannon, sort of the doors, next set of doors, and there's a steward, and she goes, oh, where are you sitting? So we showed her, and she went, oh, you can't bring the chair up. And we went, sorry. And they were like, yeah, so you have got accessible seats, but you can't
these ones here.
Yeah, these ones here. They're step 3. And I said, well, I exclusively said when we booked these tickets that we wanted wheelchair accessible. And they was like, well, can she get out the chair into a seat? I went, well, yes, you can, but we want the wheelchair here. Oh, well, sorry, we can't do that. I said, okay. I said, so what are you telling us that we need to do? She went, well, you need to check the wheelchair in at the customer services desk. So I'm like, okay, where's that? It's outside 401. So what they were expecting of us was for me to leave Shannon by herself as an accessible person, for me to then take the wheelchair to 401, which is, like I said, a whole lap around the O2.
It's about a 10-minute walk.
Yeah, about a 10, 15-minute walk. To then walk all the way back to the seats myself, leave the wheelchair there. So that then meant if Shannon needed the toilet, if she wanted to go and get a drink, if she wanted to go to the merch stand, I would then have to walk all the way back around to 401 to get the wheelchair, to come all the way back around, and so on. And we turned around and went, this is not good enough. And she went, well, you'll have to take it up with the customer service desk. So we goes back around to customer services, and they're like, look, the accessible seats you've been given and this and that. And we were like, well, look, she needs the wheelchair, or at the very least, she needs the wheelchair nearby. So they went, right, well, what we can do is we can put you in section 101, which is obviously in the first tier, and the customer service desk is directly outside. So we went, okay, that's fine. If it's literally a 2-minute walk, which it was. So we goes down to 101, gets Shannon to her seat, gets checked in. I take the chair to the thing, which granted was literally outside the door to where we were sat, so that was fine. And we sit down, and we're at the end of a row.
Yeah, can I just say that these seats were just
normal seats
at the very back of the block. So there's no one behind us apart from like the Pepsi stand people that are all stood up. So there's no one behind us, but you were right at the back on the end on these normal plasticky seats.
Yeah. So we're at the end of a row. So we must have had to stand up 10, 15 times because obviously people are coming and going and trying to get to their seats and going to get drinks and all this. And we're sitting there, and obviously by this point you're already in a lot of pain. And then we're like, okay, well, it is what it is. And then the show starts.
And then Billy starts.
And what happens? Everyone in front of us stands up.
So what can I see? I see nothing. I can just see between people, and everyone is stood up. Like, I get it. People want to have a good time, but it frustrates me that if you want to stand up and dance, book standing tickets, But anyway, couldn't see a thing, and I went, no, I can't do this. And I stood up for a bit, didn't I? Again, powering through. I wanted to see Billy. Couldn't do it.
So I ended up dragging you out. We went to customer services, and at this point, you're in floods of tears.
Yeah.
And, when we walk out the door and the customer services team, you've seen them go, oh, shit. And they ran straight over, got you a chair, everything else. And they turn around and goes, okay, well, we don't usually do this, but we can get you on a viewing platform. And we went, right, okay, well, where is that then? And they said, well, it's round the corner. So he goes round the corner, and it is a wheelchair viewing platform. So essentially, where we should have been all along. And we parks up, and by this point, we've missed like 4 or 5 songs, haven't we? So, you know,
most of the flipping start of the show, the first half of the show.
And, you know, we get onto this platform, and, you know, we get settled, and we start watching the show, and then, you know, everything's good. And then towards the end of the show, we got chat to this young couple next to me, two young girls. And one of them's got a big knee brace on, and she's on crutches. And we just start chatting away. And she goes, oh, yeah. She said, you know, I had surgery last week, so on my knee, so this and that. And we're like, oh, okay. They were like, yeah, we were literally just walking through, going to our seats, and someone just stopped us and said, you know, one of the customer care team stopped us and went, oh, where are you sitting? And we said, oh, we're on these seats here. And they said, oh, no worries, we'll get you on a viewing platform.
Sorry? Sorry?
So,
they just offered you the seat for fun, but, you know, we don't normally do this, and we're not going to do it again because you haven't booked these seats.
When you've got someone in an electric wheelchair. You know, and again, it comes back to what we're saying is this stigma, and people look at Shannon and go, you know, you're a 30-year-old girl, you don't need a wheelchair, you don't need this, you don't need that, you know, whatever it may be. And, you know, you then went, because ironically enough, you had tickets for two shows, didn't you? You went with me and went with one of your friends. And the second time you went, obviously you drove yourself, because I drove the first time. And as you pulled up in the car park,
they were like, I went to the car park someone went to last time, and I pulled up and I was like, oh yeah, got a ticket. You put your hazards on, showing me badge, show them your parking. And she went, we haven't got your disabled badge. I went, yeah. She goes, disabled parking, yeah. And she went, but do you need it? I said, sorry? She went, disabled parking. I went, do I need it? Yes, I do. I have a wheelchair. And she's like, oh, we haven't got any disabled parking here, sorry.
So our pre-booked disabled parking that we paid £45 for, we don't have any.
And then to be questioned, do you need it though? Sorry? Anyway, she went, you have to go to car park 4. Where's that? It's that way. I was like, okay, great. So I went to the car park. No, it's not here. It's over that way. Okay, cool. Got there. It is the furthest car park away. And as we drove in, they said, no, you can't park here. I said, look, I've been to the first one. There's no parking there. And I've paid for it. And this is the parking. This was like the exclusive parking, this was. And he was like, yeah, that's fine, actually. You know, come on in. And I was like, yeah, I was going in anyway. Because the show wasn't long going to start. So I went in, parked up, got the chair out, got into the O2, and I went straight to the customer care because I wasn't having what happened last time. And I said, look, called up. Just
as we say, just going back, I'd rang up a couple of days before and I said, look, this is the ordeal we had the first time around. You're coming again next week. You know, can we pre-organise that we have the tickets on the platform? And they said, well, we haven't got any left, but if you speak to us on the day, tell them you've spoken to us and that we're happy to do it, they'll sort it.
So go to customer care. I said, look, came last week. It was a shit show, but here's my tickets. My husband's phoned up, spoke to somebody. He said to come to you guys directly and to sort the seats out because I can't transfer into a seat. I can't be standing. I can't do any of that. Oh, can I see your tickets then? And I was like, okay. Give them my phone. They were looking at them and all 3 of them were there. And I noticed the girl at the end was one of the ladies that we dealt with that time before. But this guy that was dealing with it was like more senior. So she stayed a bit quiet. And he was huffing and puffing and going, oh, no, I don't know, and making phone calls and making quite a big deal out of it, which made me feel like shit. That I felt like I, again, was just, you know, I should just sit in the seat and put up with it. But no, I wasn't going to do that this time again. And he finally just like shoves these paper tickets and like handwritten tickets in my face and went, right, we don't do this because you haven't booked accessible tickets. I said, well, we have. I have booked them. We phoned up and booked them because, yeah, but they're not the kind of tickets that the access viewing platform. And I was like, well, what do you expect me to do? Like, what do you want me to do? He was like, well, we're not going to do this again for you. So, you know, if you're going to book it next time, be explicit you've got a wheelchair. Like, he was such an ass.
I was explicit that you had it.
Yeah. And they he went, so why can't you like just use these tickets? I went, because since you've booked those tickets, I've broken maybe 4 or 5 more vertebrae of my spine. And then he went silent and he handed me these different tickets. So I think he was trying to nudge me back down to where we were before. Then he gave me these printed tickets and said, yeah, you're on the viewing platform, but just know, we don't normally do this. I'm like, well, so we went down and we had the best seats. But not from fighting, you know, I had to fight again. And everything we do is fighting. And I'm so done with it. That's for medical things, for financial things, for just days out and people and family and friends. I'm just fed up fighting. Fed up with it.
And, you know, you even think back to when we, you know, when you first got diagnosed and you were going through treatment, you know, applying for certain benefits. We're applying for your blue badge, applying for PIP. You know, our blue badge application got declined. And
yeah, we said before, didn't we?
Our Macmillan nurse had to basically write a letter to say, you know, she needs it. And it got overturned. And it was the same thing with the PIP. You know, the PIP got questioned and, you know, all of this. And again, it's because of your age, because you were young and everything else. It's like, well, you don't necessarily need these sort of things that maybe
you're young, you should get through it. You'll be absolutely fine. You'll bounce through it. Who bounces through cancer of any kind?
Yeah. And, you know, fast forward into to sort of where we're at now, you know, as Shannon said, she lost her job or left her job back in April, or May, sorry. And, you know, you've tried since and not been able to source something. And obviously because of your deteriorating health and the things that you're having to deal with day to day just due to recovery, you know, I was struggling with my job and, you know, having to work so far away and being a national, you know, coverage, having to travel. And, you know, I ended up taking a job that was much closer to home. But, you know, I'm more than half my salary to do so. You know, when we're already in a position where Shannon is not bringing any money in and hasn't been for quite some time, and I had to half my salary just so I could actually be closer to home.
All I was bringing in was government benefits.
Yeah.
One benefit.
You know, PIP. You had PIP and that was it. And, you know, to actually then be in a position where I had to change jobs and you know, move to a job that was close to home so that I could be available for appointments and things like that, you know, was very hard. And like we said, financially, we took a massive hit. You know, as I said, you know, we're already living, you know, lean as it is. And then for me to then, you know, over half my salary just to get a job closer to home. And, you know, that was over the last couple of months and it's been tough. And you know, I was having to take a lot of time off and, you know, there was days where you'd ring me and you'd fallen getting out of the shower, or, you know, you had an emergency appointment you needed to go to, or whatever it may be.
I could literally get a phone call saying, can you come in at 4 o'clock?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, yeah. Okay. And then also, like, what we don't see is the calendar we've got, our shared calendar. Every week, I think if there's not one appointment, there's 2.
Yeah. And, you know, there was one week in question, which was kind of the sort of cherry on top, where you had 8 appointments in 7 days. And obviously at the time, you know, my work that I was with at the time were very good to me. And, you know, but, you know, I will admit, I think it was causing a little bit of tension and a little bit of, you know, whatever you want to call it, that I was having to have so much time off and, you know, coming in late, leaving early, you know, having to make time up and everything else. So on top of having to deal with all this stuff that's going on and, you know, looking after Shannon and looking after the house and everything else, I was then trying to have to juggle work as well. And, you know, that week in question, there was 2 appointments that I didn't come to. And it's not because I didn't want to. They were quite serious appointments. And, you know, you asked your dad for a lift. But then, you know, you couldn't get up in the morning. You couldn't get up. You weren't able to get yourself up, get yourself ready, because I wasn't here to help with that. You know, and then your dad's turned up, you weren't ready, and then you're stressing, you're getting worked up. You've already worked up about your appointment anyway, and it's just added stress. You know, so it got to the point where, you know, my employer we sat down, we had a conversation, and I said, look, things are, at the time you were actually under investigation for secondary cancer, which thankfully has come back all clear. But, we weren't sure what the next few months were going to look like, did we? And so at that time, we made that decision that, you weren't going to go back to work for some time in order to recover. Recover. And we actually made a very difficult decision that I was going to stop working as well to be essentially your full-time carer.
It's the only way we can make things work.
Yeah. And
I also want to put in there that wasn't an easy decision to make. We went around the houses about it, and I begged him not to give up work, and it wasn't about giving up work. It was giving up, a different life outside of the home. And he was like, no, this is what I need to do. And you know what? He was completely right, because since he's been off, our quality of life has been so much better. I can't say financially it's been great, but we will get there. It's just temporary. It's not forever. And I think, in this situation, we also haven't been supported by family and friends in certain ways. But the ones that are supporting us completely understand why this is happening, because they do see, a little peek through those closed doors. They see that I struggle, and you know what? I think this time that we've got together, that we're going to start going swimming and actually building strength in my back up, and getting more active and being able to get out more, using the chair, not use the chair, and having this time to recover. And be like, I don't get out of bed some days until 1-2 o'clock. That's because I'm so tired, so exhausted. But then I can go a week and not have a nap in a day, because of having that time to be able to recoup and actually take the time to look after ourselves. And I wouldn't eat a thing before. I mean, I don't really now, but Joe's now here to go breakfast, lunch, eat lunch, some dinner. And like I said, our quality of life is a lot better. And it's only been a month,
like that, a couple of weeks.
It's been about a month, I think, hasn't it?
No, it's been a couple of weeks.
Well, it feels like forever. But no, it's honestly the quality of life we've got now. If this is what we have for the next couple of months while we sort ourselves out and sort me out, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that.
But then, like you said, we've had people question that decision. At the end of the day,
it's not their choice. It's not their business.
And we haven't made this decision lightly.
No. Killed me.
It's absolutely killed you. It's a decision that we've had to really think about because of financial implications and everything else. Like Shannon said, me having to give up work, me not having that outlet, us being together all the time, these are all things that are going to be very difficult. And, we've had certain people question that, and,
they used to be the ones supporting us.
Yeah, they should, the people who should be supporting us through this are the ones that have questioned it. And, and it's judgment. It's that stigma of judgment,
That stigma of benefits. So they're on benefits, and it's that scrounger. It's that the type of people that have benefits. What do you mean the type of people? Anyone can have benefits at any time. We've paid our way in taxes, in national insurance. You name it.
At the end of the day,
why don't we?
We've both been 40% tax bracket payers for the last 7-8 years. Yeah. We've paid into that system. We've paid our way. We've paid our dues.
Yeah, and now we need it.
Yeah, and
we need it back.
We are the people who, that these benefits are designed for. And at the end of the day, I'm not going to get into the state of the benefit system, because that's a whole other topic. But at the end of the day, these benefits are there for people like Shannon. People who go through these life-changing, life-altering illnesses and need the support of the benefit system in order for us to survive. And at the end of the day, we're not living a lavish lifestyle. Far from it. We have about enough to get by, and that's it. And it's difficult, and we've had to make a lot of sacrifices. I've had to cancel my Sky Sports. I can't watch Spurs anymore. It's probably for the best,
definitely can't.
But we've had to cut right back on a lot of stuff. And it's been difficult.
I'm also sorry. I also feel that because you're saying, we live day by day and like month by month and whatever it is, and week by week with money. I also feel like if we go out and buy a couple of candles, or we go out and buy something for our house, or we get a little bit of judgment for it. And even if we don't get judgment for it, I know that I feel guilty.
Yeah.
And I've recently gone through a stage of, that's beautiful, that's really nice, and then walking away from it. And Joe goes, well, why are you getting it? And I'm like, don't need it. And then he goes back and goes, no, you're having it, you deserve it. So we go through that fight, don't we? But I always feel I'm kind of feeling that judgment.
Yeah.
And again, it's that stigma and judgment that we're talking about from the second that we started this podcast. Like,
yeah,
it's a lot. It's really a lot.
And yeah, like we said, I think this is the one reason we wanted to do this, because we wanted to do this episode just as a bit of an outlet for us.
A bit.
We've had a lot going on over the last couple of weeks. But, at the end of the day, we also wanted to maybe open some people's eyes to
what's going on,
not just with ourselves, but, anyone that's going through this kind of situation, and you don't really know what's going on behind closed doors. You don't really know what people's situations are. You don't really know what people are dealing with. People let you see what they want you to see, and there is always parts of you that you don't want other people to see. And by making these assumptions, making these judgments, adhering to these stigmas around certain topics, all you're doing is you're adding fuel to the fire, instead of actually trying to be supportive. And at the end of the day, you can have concerns, you can have, worries about someone, but you can air them in the right way. And, I think that's the one takeaway I would say from that. And
think about what you say and why you're saying it.
Yeah. Yeah. And, maybe really, put yourself in someone's shoes. What are they actually dealing with day to day? Is there a reason they're acting a certain way? Is there, some explanation that you've not considered, kind of thing? Because, like you said, people are going through stuff even in day-to-day life.
I honestly would never wish cancer on my worst enemy. I wouldn't. It is the most life-changing thing that somebody can go through. I think, it's life-altering, and it's not just a period of time. It's forever, because even if you're all clear and you're healthy, you're still lump and bump and you're trying to find things, and that's just the way it's going to be. I would never wish it on anyone. But you know what? For those people that have told me it's the easy cancer and it's easy to get through, for those that have said to me, oh, but it's not that bad, just live a day in my shoes, either now or when I had chemo or before that. Live a day in my shoes, and please come back and tell me that it's easy. Please come back and tell me that I should be doing okay. And please tell me that I shouldn't be using the wheelchair and I'm absolutely healthy. Honestly, the pain that I go through daily is equivalent to, there's like a chronic pain limit, and like I'm easily, if 10 out of 10 is the worst pain anyone could feel, I'm at about 7 or 8 every day. And I deal with that. Anyone who wasn't going through what I was going through would wake up in that pain. I'd probably call an ambulance or go to the hospital. That's what people don't get. Live a day in my shoes, and please come back and tell me it's not easy.
Yeah. And this is the thing, even though, you're over cancer, you're not, because like you said, there's still potential for relapse. Like we said, you've been recently under investigation for a secondary cancer. And
I mean, we went in with, there were some issues with like lady issues, and they at first said, oh, let's do a smear and we'll do a scan on your stomach, because at first they thought, it could be cervical. What people don't realise as well, you go to the doctors and you say, I've got a stomach ache, right? They work from the bottom up. They go, you've got a tummy bug, okay? They work their way up to the worst. When you are a cancer patient, or like me, you've had cancer in remission, when you are under those people, if I went in and said, I've got a real bad tummy ache, they work from the top down, okay? So they think worst to best scenario. So the first thing they think is, okay, let's check for cancer. Now, people see that as, what do you mean you check for cancer? You've only got a stomach ache. But actually, it's not me saying I'm at risk for cancer. It is just the NHS, the way they work with people like me. So we went in, that was fine, but in the scan, it showed that my lymph nodes in my neck were abnormal. So then from there, we had to go forward and have a PET scan, which is absolutely, I hate PET scans so much, but I had a PET scan. Then that came back out. We had to wait for those results, and it was fine. But that whole ordeal was, about 3-4 weeks?
Oh, easy, if not longer, yeah.
Right? So I'm going through that, and we're going through that worry of, is it cancer again? Because being pulled in thinking it is this. They're telling me that if it is, they won't be able to cut it out. So now we're having 2 huge scars on my neck. So I'm thinking about that. And people have the cheek to
call you a hypochondriac.
That I'm overthinking it, and it's not that bad. But that's the way it works. That isn't me saying I might have cancer again. It's the NHS, it's my consultants who, are working that way down, not the way up. So yeah, that's just one thing I really wanted to air, because it frustrates me that people think that I think the worst all the time. And you know what, when you've had cancer and you're on the FaceTime to your mum and you see a little shadow on your neck, you instantly check it. You don't do that if you haven't had cancer. Would you do that?
No.
No. When you put a deodorant on and you go over a little bump and you go, what's that? Or you're constantly checking your body for abnormalities. You're constantly, if you're not feeling too well, you're thinking about what symptoms you might have to have cancer. Because that is the way my brain is now wired. That is the way the NHS now works for me. So that was just a big rant that I wanted to get out there. Yeah.
And
it's not easy.
And I mean, we wanted to touch on briefly as well with regards to benefits. Like we said, because of the situation we're in now, we're having to look at certain benefits. And, I'm not going to go into the ins and outs as to what we are entitled to or anything else. But, at the end of the day, quite a few of these benefits that we've spoken to our community law team about, we were applicable for when you were first diagnosed.
And I think massively, if we knew that back when I was diagnosed, we could have utilised that back then. And you know what? Maybe I wouldn't be in the state that I am in now. Maybe we wouldn't be in the position that we are now if somebody told us about that earlier, that you can access all of these things and still be able to live, a decent life. And then I have that time back then to recover. We had time together to rebuild everything.
Yeah.
Instead of
not just rebuild, but just having that time and not having to have that financial burden during your treatment, and being able to tackle that without having these 10 other plates that are spinning.
And then to come off of the benefits and continue with our careers, because they're important to us. I've worked bloody hard to get to where I am, and I know you have as well.
Yeah.
You've worked your way up. I've worked my way up, and it's, and I just wish someone had told us sooner.
Yeah, but I mean, we utilise...
You can't live like that, though.
No, you can't. We can't think of things in hindsight, but yeah, we spoke to our local community law service. So yeah, the only advice I would give is, obviously, if you're going through a situation like this, speak to your local community law team. They were absolutely fantastic. They went through everything with us. And yeah, we were really shocked in, what we were eligible for and everything else.
You know what? When we spoke to her, that is the first time I think I've spoken to somebody about, money, finances, benefits that haven't been judged. And she was like, go for this, go for that. No, go for this. No, try that. And she was so enthusiastic to get us benefits. She wasn't discouraging us like people might. That's her job. She's there to see what we're entitled to. And it's the first time I remember crying at the end of that, didn't I? I was crying mostly through it all. And she was like, no, don't cry. It's okay. And I wasn't crying at the fact that we're going on benefits. I was crying. Like I am now, because I feel so guilty that it's my fault we're in this position, and it's my fault that we're even living this life right now. Life could be so different if it wasn't for me getting cancer. And again, you can't think like that, and you can't live in hindsight, but the guilt that I carry, I don't think anyone understands that. You get it, because I cry all the time about it. But outside of this house, I don't think anyone realises the guilt that I carry, and I carry it every day. So that's why I put the brave face on. That's why I just get on with things, because I feel so much guilt. So much. And I know I need to shift it, but I don't think I ever will, to be honest with you.
No. Because like you said, you do feel very responsible. And yeah, we've had some very stern chats regarding that.
They don't work.
They don't. Shannon's too stubborn for that.
Again, still a bit.
But yeah. So, yeah, I think that's kind of been it. That's as I said, guys, we just wanted to rant a little bit. We just wanted to, give some insight. And, we wanted to do this episode for a number of reasons. But like I said, I think, a lot of it is going to be relevant for what's still to come. And, by sharing this with you now, hopefully we've allowed you to maybe think about situations in a different light. Maybe consider what people are going through and everything else. And, as far as if you're dealing with this kind of scenario,
you know what to do now. That you can, you can go to community law and you can talk about these things. And, Million Services, obviously you can still go through those guys as well. But it's just, I really wanted to do this. I woke up this morning and you said podcast, and I went, only if we can do this, because I've felt so strongly about it. And just the way people see things and say things and do things, it needs to change. And you need to be really mindful of how you approach things and support people. You can understand somebody's circumstances and not support them, but not tell them that, because actually you don't need to tell them that.
Yeah. And I think as well as that, like you said earlier, it took a lot for you to, come to terms with wheelchair and things like that. But
we have one now, by the way.
Yeah, it has massively changed your your quality of life.
Yeah, it has. My independence. And we can go round a shop now. You can go somewhere else and look what you want to do, and I can look somewhere else, because you're not worrying about me collapsing or having to be near me all the time, because I'm safe in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And we can have a whole day out now, not just half an hour out.
Yeah. But that it was a process, and it took you time to get there.
But sometimes I still say I'm not using it today. I'm going to look around the shop like I used to and burn myself out. But that's my choice.
At least you got the choice now.
Yeah.
So yeah. Thanks for joining us. Obviously, slightly different episode today. Moving forward, we are going to be looking at obviously the story and how it unravels over the next couple of months, and we're also going to be looking to do some additional stuff as well mixed in. So if anyone has got any questions,
or any ideas anyone thinks about.
Any ideas, any questions, or anything that you want to put to us, we're on the socials, we're on Instagram, TikTok, etc. Or, if it's someone that
just privately,
someone knows us, if you want and ask a question on the podcast that you're interested in, drop us a line, and, we'll maybe do a little question and answer section every week. If you want to share your story or something that you've been through, or ask our opinion on a situation, or maybe someone that's going through this and you want to
reach out.
Yeah, reach out to us, guys, because, at the end of the day, yes, our story is going to be a big part of this podcast, because that's our motivation for what we're doing here. But we also want to try and make a bit of a difference. And whether that be, answering a question that one of you guys has, about our situation or your situation, just reach out. And, we'd love to get to a point where, we're answering a few questions every week and helping people, whether they're going through this themselves or know someone who is. Drop us a line, guys. And thanks for joining us. Next episode, we're going to continue on with the story of first chemo. So we've got that to look forward to. Some interesting things that happen in those first couple of weeks. So join us for all that.
And also, thank you for the support. I get lots of messages from people and comments on the posts, and it really means a lot.
Yeah, we both appreciate it. So thanks for joining us, guys. So thanks for joining us. As always, like, follow, subscribe, all of that fun stuff. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye.